Welcome to the third in a series of 5 planned office hours sessions, which will focus on Zowe V3 for Zowe extenders. I'm Michael Dubois. I'm a member of the Zowe onboarding squad and Zowe advisory council, and I'll be kicking off the session for everyone today. Each week in this office hours series, we focus on a specific Zowe component to ensure that we offer extenders a deeper understanding of V3. And each session will review new features, breaking changes that most likely could impact Zowe extenders, new conformance criteria, and information about when you can begin testing and where you can find the technology when you're ready to get started with your testing. Office hours are meant to be interactive, so please ask questions, raise concerns, offer comments for the featured component. And this week's focus will be on Zowe Explorer for VS Code. Once we conclude the focus topic and respond to any questions, please feel free to interact with the presenters, raise any concerns that you have, get whatever clarification you might need, because we're here to help you to be successful with Zowe V3. We think you should please take advantage of this opportunity fully. Finally, please be sure to reference zowe.org/vnext. We will continue to update this page with the most current relevant information as we're moving closer to our planned GA date, which is March the 28th, 2024. So at this time, I'd like to turn the session over to our presenters from the Explorer Squad and let Billie Jean and Fernando take you through whatever it is you need to know. Guys, I'm not sure which one's starting, but take it away.
Hey, thanks, Mike. This is Billie Jean Simmons, one of the co-leads of the Zowe Explorer Squad, and I'll start us off. Today's agenda will include the Zowe releases timeline and conformance, new features. We'll go over some breaking changes, touch on V3 conformance, how you can get the items for testing, and we include some resources and time for Q&A. So our release timeline and conformance, the conformance are tied to the LTS lifespan. So you could see V1 conformance will be ending along with the maintenance in September of next year, 2024. Zowe V2 conformance is active right now and will cover Zowe V2 through its active and maintenance time frame. Support providers do need to apply for conformance for each major version. Each major version will have its own separate conformance. So as extenders move up in versions, you will need to reapply for those conformance. Zowe V3 conformance will also align with our Zowe V3 LTS. As previously mentioned, you'll have to reapply for the V3 conformance once available. Some new features we've already started working on is our support for the local storage VS Code settings for our persistent history settings, like your search history, file history, items like that you see that exist now in your settings.json. We will be moving those into the VS Code's local storage in V3. We have started work on Unix command capability. So once that's available for testing, extenders can start their work to adopt that new functionality in their extensions as well. And we are bringing in the ability to compare files in the MVS view, the Unix System Services view, and then also across the views. So you'll be able to select files in those two views and compare the files. It will download those files and open a VS Code diff screen so you can see the difference between the two files. For more V3 features, you can join the discussion. We have hyperlinked here for the new capabilities we'd like to add. So with the breaking changes, I'm going to hand it over to Fernando.
Alrighty, thank you, Billie. So the first breaking change, right? And we have been talking about this for quite some time. It is the removal of V1 profile support. The functionality, it was definitely deprecated. This is the why, right? It was deprecated in V1, uh, and in order to allow for the more flexible team configuration files, and we're just removing that functionality now in V3. The impact to the users, in order, if you want to continue using the Zowe Explorer, right, you will either have to implement new team config files or convert any existing V1 profiles. And for extenders as well, right, they have to make sure that they use the new Zowe Explorer APIs, which are enhanced to consume these new team configuration files. By the way, credits to Adam Wolf for the format and the pictures. Really, really cool picture. I really like them. Um, and we thought we sort of used the format to highlight the most impactful breaking changes, right? The other one being the removal of deprecated items in general, right? We do have this issue on, oops, we do have this issue on screen, 2238, which sort of captures everything that it's either deprecated or no longer has any usefulness in the V3 code base, right? So the same goes for extenders. If they are previously using any deprecated methods, they might want to take a look at the alternatives that we have already provided in the either the Zowe Explorer APIs and throughout the code base, right? Um, if you want to see a full list of changes affecting extenders, we left a hyperlink here. Um, there are two other small breaking changes, right? We didn't use the same format just because it wasn't as impactful to end users or extenders. One of them being some UX changes around profile creation, some consolidation, which you may have seen already, right? But a lot of that will definitely for the better, we believe, right? We'll be having a little bit of a touch up, right? Just some more streamlined operations you can have in your profile creation mechanisms or operations. And as Billy mentioned, right, the extension settings. Now I mean, you're not going to be able to just copy paste them, say, from your settings directory or your settings file in VS Code. However, because they're moving to local storage. However, we will provide a means for you to update or handle those settings, those say your history and some of those items, right? We are still sort of working on those as we speak, right? In terms of conformance, we at the time of this recording of this call, this office hours, we do not have any new conformance criteria planned for V3. However, any items that apply for V2 would just carry forward. That meaning whether your extension should use the team config files, right? Should support that and everything else that applied in V2. For testing, the we're happy to announce that the V3 pre-release is available. You can get it from OpenVSX if you are using Chromium or not Chromium, but yeah, VS Codium, yep, or any other applications like that. You can also get the VSIX from the GitHub releases and the NPM package. You can get it directly from public NPM. In terms of timeline, right? We made the pre-release available a little while ago. We are still planning on making pre-releases constantly as we have impactful features. But yeah, we sort of wanted to determine October as our pre-release V3 pre-release availability for testing, right? As you see here on the screen. From then on, from November till next February, we want to make sure we finalize all the work, any removals, anything that may impact end users, right? And we hope to, of course, continue communications on that front. And the target GA date, it's around the end of March, right? March 28, 2024. For resources, as Mike Dubois mentioned, please feel free to check out zowe.org/vnext because we will be adding this information and more, right, from other components, other squads. And do not forget to check out the Medium blog written by Billy Jean. Really, really good summarize on what the information some of the information you saw here, right? But it sort of compasses all the big changes, right, that are happening with Zowe Explorer V3. Definitely a good read and definitely short to consume. Some of the contact information definitely the Zowe Explorer channel. We also monitor some of the other channels. Sometimes here and there, we may receive some questions, some users in the Zowe user channel. There is also email, right? You can definitely reach out to either one of us directly. But the easier interaction, or it could be through the GitHub repository, right? Whether that is through issues, discussions, you name it. And yeah, I believe that is it. Really, I think we covered everything.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions or would like to get clarification from either of the speakers today, this would be a good time. I don't see any questions in the chat at this time. I'll pause just a moment now to see if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, I might. Yeah, great job, Billy and Fernando. So I have a couple of questions. So in the version 2 CLI at the moment, if you have V1 profiles, there's a command, I think it's called something like Zowe convert.
Zowe config convert profiles, yes?
Yeah, something like, yeah. Is that still going to be there just in case you bump into somebody's I think I heard it might be. I just wanted to confirm in case anybody's listening on playback.
Yeah.
That you're still gonna You're still gonna carry that forward because you might end up with somebody that didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah, and I know there's been some discussion. I'm glad Adam's on the call. We've even discussed possibly just handling all that behind the scenes so the users don't have to do anything. If we notice V1 profiles,
right, you could do it. You could do it
internally and go ahead and create it. So there's still discussion on how it can be handled, but yes, we do want to keep that capability there for the V3, especially since V1 is no longer supported. So we'll want to be able to migrate the users.
Right. Yeah, I remember this from my Eclipse days when you would deprecate a kind of a workspace that was N-2 releases back, and if it was N-1, you would say, well, do you want us to bring you forwards because you can kind of never go back? Or do you want to stay in this deprecated state? But if it got too old, you would just say, we're just going to do it, right? Because, yeah, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, because if you auto-converted it without any warning, it's possible that somebody still wanted to run the out of support version with profiles for whatever reason. So, yeah, okay.
I'd have to double check and maybe Fernando or Adam know right offhand. I think even when the command is run, the original V1 profile still exists. They don't get removed. That way they could move between.
Yeah, they get copied to a backup, I don't, or something, yeah. Profile's old or something, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct. Nothing happens without the user sort of taking explicit action. No profiles are deleted with the Zowe config convert profiles. They're just placed in this, as you mentioned, profiles.old directory, and the read APIs behind the scenes also are going to be kept for extenders or applications like Zowe Explorer to be able to read at least from the for the purpose of conversion, right? Nothing else. To be able to read and at least warn users about the V1 profile support going away, right? Adam, if there's anything you would like to add.
Yeah, that is the plan going forward, is to keep the ability to convert existing V1 profiles. Yeah.
Awesome. That's really good. Thank you. And for the API changes, that's only going to affect, so the end user's programming interface, if they're scripting around CLI, will be around the verbs like, I don't know, Zowe files, list datasets, or Zowe job submit, local file, and things like that. When you talk about APIs, none of those, my understanding is that none of those will change. It's just only for an extender, which would be somebody who has a Zowe conformance badge. And presumably they'll get some email notification or something and a little bit of early heads up, because we must know who that community is, because they must have applied for conformance at one point.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm sorry, Fernando, go ahead.
No.
Oh. I was just going to mention that you're correct. It's not going to affect any CLI commands or anything. This is the Zowe Explorer APIs we're speaking of when we talk about the V3 break and change to the APIs. So yeah, this is specific to extenders that may be using some of the old deprecated APIs still. They'll want to, update to the newer supported API.
Right, yeah, because from 1 to 2, there were APIs that people did script, like Zoe profiles create with a bunch of stuff, or Zoe profiles update, and those were hard removed. And some people, for whatever reason, they had that in bringing up their scripts and tearing down their scripts. But that's not going to occur now. There's none of that public-facing Zoe syntax that will disappear. So anybody who's written a script, that script should continue as useful. It's just literally the persistent format by which they introduce the profile information, endpoints and connections and stuff, which is good. So it's okay.
Just wanted to sort of clarify that. It is a CLI topic, and the focus topic is Zoe Explorer. But for CLI, no, you're good. For CLI in Zoe Explorer, I like, right, all the functions that users used to use for either creating profiles and everything, they will be retained, not the V1 profile specific one, like Zoe profiles create, even though they were still somewhat supported if you did not have a team config in V2. Those are just sort of going away for the purpose of V3, right? But the only thing we're going to keep around those is the migration capabilities, meaning in the CLI, Zoe config convert profiles, and for the APIs for Zoe Explorer, we're going to have the underlying APIs still available so that Zoe Explorer can determine whether or not they are still using V1 profiles.
Perfect. Thank you.
So any other questions out there before we wrap up? Okay, well, in that case, I'd like to wrap up by thanking our presenters today, Billie Jean and Fernando, and of course, thanks to everyone who attended our office hours session today. Session number 4, which is scheduled for next Friday, will focus on the web UI. So if you're extending the desktop or if you're interested in V3 changes for the UI, make sure that's on your calendar. And enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Awesome. Great job. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you.